Good afternoon, everyone. This is Julianne from Razorleaf. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the webinar, our Tech Tuesday series. We're excited today to bring you what's new from Aras for Release 21, and Milana Bredovic is going to walk us through some of the interesting things from that release, and then take us through some dashboarding techniques. Also, Rodney Coffey joins us, and many of you know him, and we're going to get started. Just a couple of notes on housekeeping. So we are going to record this webinar, and we will be sending it out in, within the next 1 to 2 business days. So you can look for that in your email. And if you have any questions, please make sure to put them in the questions box. We'll try to get them answered and in queue when we hit the Q&A at the end of the session. Thanks. I'm going to hand it over to Milan.
All right, thanks, Julian. So as usual, we're going to start going over with our agenda. So first, we're going to cover some pretty major updates in Innovator 21. That's going to be a pretty big focus on, as Julianne mentioned, dashboards. And then we'll kind of reshape this a little bit. We've gone over, say, notable release notes in the past. In this case, we're going to go over some pretty other notable changes to Innovator 21. Then we'll move into a quick demonstration of dashboarding, how to configure them, how to build them, and how they work. And then let's finish things up with Q&A and a bit of wrap up. So with that, let's get started. So here's a quick rundown of the pretty significant enhancements here. So one being introduction of configurable dashboards. This is something I'm pretty excited about and something that we've had requests about in the past, and Innovator really didn't have the backbone to build dashboards. So now we have this capacity to create interactive widgets for displaying and navigating data, and really putting everything that you need into one place without having to hop around your environment. Along with this, some enhancements to 3D visualization. So now we're going to be able to go through in our models and manually transform them, move parts around, adjust how you want to view them, allow you to kind of get a more in-depth view into your models within Aras Innovator, and also allowing you to save these customized views. If you want to move a part and save that view to allow someone to come in and see how your model would look in that case, you're now able to maintain that. Along with that, we have custom search grid layouts. So if you are to customize your search grid to your liking and then make it a saved search, that grid can be restored automatically within that saved search. That all just sticks together in one place. So now moving into dashboards. So what Aras did with this new update is introduced what I've been calling the configurable dashboard framework, which kind of allows us to start playing with 2 new item types, which are dashboards and widget templates. So the dashboard item type is where the actual dashboard will be stored, where it's defined, and where it can be customized. And the widget template item type is where we can customize and create these widgets you're seeing here on the screenshot. And these 2 in tandem will allow you to create these interactive dashboards. So the dashboard item type will consist of 2 major components, 2 major views. One being the dashboard settings, which will appear as a pretty basic item type form where your name, your number of columns, and your description are set. As you can see in this top right corner, you'll have this button to select View Dashboard. And this is where we get into our cool interactive drag and drop interface. So here's where we can select widgets, customize them from this menu, kind of adjust their widths, heights, how much information will be shown without having to scroll, and also be able to drag and drop them, place them wherever you would like. Along with that, we have the widget template item type. This is where the specifics of a widget are defined. So with this introductory release of dashboards, widgets can only display data that is kind of based off of a search grid. So for example, your in-basket, if you wanted to, say, have a widget of all your parts or all your active ECOs, active projects, things that can show up in a grid, those are the only things that can currently be displayed in widgets. Coming up soon, I believe in 22, we'll be able to have tree grid widgets. 23 and onward, we'll have widgets based on reports, discussion tabs, graph views, and I believe custom widgets are also going to be involved in 22 as well. So they're currently only governed by these current or following set of properties. So one just being your item type, which is required, essentially setting what information you'll be showing in that widget. And you can also set up your widgets to display a favorited search or a saved search, and also be able to determine what kind of search criteria will be displayed in that widget. And that's something we'll go into a little bit later on with our demonstration. So after that, we'll get into some of the notable changes that have popped up with this current release of Innovator. First thing first, 3D visualization, a little bit more expanded support for different CAD formats. So we'll be able to support ACES 2021, NX V11 up to 2007, Solid Edge V1920, as well as SolidWorks from 97 up to 2022. Something we touched on last Tech Tuesdays is improved context menus. Now, these context menus have the added ability to provide this manual geometry transformation. So we can move or rotate our selected components on kind of an access-driven basis, which I'll poke around with in our demonstration. And also we can restore markup lines from the discussion panel or keep them within our saved views as well, which I believe was a question that came up in our last Tech Tuesday. So Aras kind of delivered the solution for that one. And then finally, for our pretty notable changes, this one kind of went under the radar, just kind of came up through some experimentation. But package import export utilities have gotten a refresh and a bit of a change. So the UI has been refreshed, changed for both tools. As you notice, if some of you have used the package import export tool in the past, the sign-in is no longer directly within the application. You'll sign into Innovator through a dialog box that comes up. And since this dialog box is web-based, it causes a bit of issues in terms of runtimes. So since Internet Explorer 11 has been retired, the IOM SDK structure has been changed. So the previous structure that WebView used to run, or not WebView, import export used to run on top of has been retired. So now we'll require the WebView 2 runtime to run. With that, we can move into Aras Innovator and start poking around with the new dashboard tool. All right. Where to begin? All right. So to begin, I want to poke around with a bit of a dashboard that I was able to create in preparation for this. This is a sample engineering dashboard. And as you can see, we have a few different components in here. So to start, you can see that we have our workflow assignments from our in-basket in a widget here. And also a user can go ahead and access any projects that they're involved on and be able to see what phases they're on, what kind of completion status they have. As an example, to show that we're able to, say, use something other than a single item type. In this case, this is a poly item of parts, CADs, and document, or parts, CAD docs, and normal documents. We have an entire search grid here of all of those that are within our environment. So you can scroll through. And the cool thing about these dashboard widgets is that they're interactive. So for example, if I were to want to open one of these parts or documents, I can just double click and bring up whatever item that I'd wish to open from our dashboard. This also works with workflow assignments. A user can go ahead and complete their any task that they have in their in-basket directly from their dashboard. They don't have to go through go into My Innovator, find it on their table of contents, and go through that whole process to get to whatever task they need to complete. They can just log into their dashboard and see what they need to do. The cool thing about the dashboard here is if a user does have edit permissions to their dashboard, they can make changes actively. So if I need, say, more pertinent information, or maybe I don't necessarily need to see this much of our parts CAD docs, I can go into this edit screen and actually modify how many results come up per page, how many results come up per page, or I can even modify how long or wide or tall each one of these widgets are. So in this case, we can modify this to 5 and 10. As you can see, it'll resize our widget. We can also resize the widgets by making use of our drag tools here. We can move them around. Say we need to see our software parts a little more prominently on our dashboard. We can feel free to drag and drop and resize as needed. So in this case, say the user wants another widget. Maybe they want to see which items are currently on changes or things that are currently in work. We can go ahead and discard our changes to this dashboard and figure out how we can create one of these widgets as a user. So the first thing you want to do to create a new widget is to make use of our grid template here. So the grid template doesn't house any information, but what it does house is the backbone of what a grid widget requires. So as you can see, we have some pre-made properties here for your item type ID, the ID of your favorite search, and some other values that will rule how your widget will be displayed. So in this case, what you'll want to do is make use of the Save As feature within Aras Innovator to, one, speed up the process so you don't have to re-enter all of those properties, but also make sure you have the proper backbone to your new widget. So in this case, if I want to make my widget about, say, ECOs, so I can name it something like in-work ECOs. Give it a label. That works for me. And give it a quick description. State. Another thing I like to do to kind of doctor up my dashboards and make them look a little prettier, you can see a lot of these have little icons here, and also just help for recognition. You can also go ahead and find the icon for ECOs and to add that onto our widget. I'm struggling to find it. Either way, we'll just select an icon. I believe that's the one for simple ECO, and go ahead and save. So at this point now, what we'll need to do is start filling out some of our properties. So in this case, we'll need to go ahead and find our item type ID, which would be found by going to our Express ECO item type, going to our properties, and copying our ID. I believe something that we have on the roadmap is the ability to go ahead and fetch these item types directly from the property, kind of how item type property would work. But at the moment, we'll have to go ahead and fetch our GUID for each of our items. So in this case, if we wanted to stop here and just show all ECOs, we could. I mean, we can go ahead and edit our dashboard, click our Add Widget icon, and select this. And what we'll actually have is every single ECO in our environment. Some of this information might not be super pertinent. I mean, if you're someone looking to see what's currently on a change, seeing a released ECO probably isn't the most important to you. So what we can do is go ahead and kind of narrow this down and get the exact information that we want to see. So there's two components that you'll need to kind of get this narrowed down information. One of that will be your favorite search ID. So I went ahead and took the liberty of creating a favorite search for in-work ECOs. And you'll see that each of these ECOs have the status of in-work. So the first thing you'll want to do is kind of follow the same format of what we did for the item type ID. So to start, we'll go find our favorite search and copy our ID and paste it into our values here. So when you want to narrow down what information showed on a widget, there's actually one more property you're going to have to add, and that would be the search criteria property. And what this property actually is the AML that runs your saved search. So in order to create this search criteria property, all we'll need to do is go ahead and copy our AML query here. Paste it into this text dialog. Also, we'll need to grab our customized AML here, add that on, and then finally our closing tag. All right, in that case, we should have a ready to go configured widget that we can add to our dashboard. Here we go. So now we have our new widget of our exact saved search that we want to see, all of our ECOs that are in work. In this case, we'll go ahead and finish this up, pretty it up, and organize things the way that we want. All right, so one more thing to note here. I currently have my dashboard built to be awfully wide. I have a pretty wide second monitor. If you, say, have users running on smaller laptop screens, Windows, you can adjust the number of columns that are within your individual dashboards. So in this case, I have everything adding up. I have everything added up to 24. So this width is 15, and this one I think should be 9. In this case, you can modify those to fit whatever window you'll need. All right, so that right there is a pretty quick introduction to dashboards. I'm really excited to see what they add. I think once our tree grid views and other options are added in, we can really build out very in-depth and very purpose-built dashboards that can be useful for a multitude of users in your environment. With that, one other thing I wanted to cover in our demonstration section here is the new enhancements to 3D visualization. So let's clean up our environment a bit here and move on to one of our CAD parts. So as I mentioned in the deck, we now have the ability to manually transform our models. And that just seems super fun. So in this case, if I were looking at this model, say I want to see what's going on underneath these filaments, see what's going on underneath some of these filament reels here. So what I can do is actually select this, right click, and rotate by a reference, an axis, any one of those things, and kind of move it under the way to see what these spools are sitting on. So as you can see, we've revealed our spool holders. Maybe we want to get a better look at those, or even see how those come together. So this modified view here can actually be also saved by making use of a saved view for some reason. And what we can also do is add markup lines to our models from these context menus as well. And with that, that will, for the most part, conclude our demonstration. And I'm looking forward to hearing any questions you guys might have about this. So with that, let's go back to our deck.
Okay, great. Thanks, Milan. If anybody has any questions, please put that in the questions chat. Be happy to take them and field them for you. Okay, we have a question here, Milan. What
Yep.
is WebView 2 and where can it be found?
Yeah, so WebView 2 is a new runtime introduced by Windows. So currently it comes standard in all Windows 11 installations, but for machines running Windows 10 and older, you'll have to find it from Microsoft's website. So the runtime really allows you to have web-based features within your desktop applications. The example I used was login dialog box or Innovator. Since that's added to the import-export utility, that's what's requiring the new runtime for it to run.
Okay, great. Thanks. Next question we have is, can dashboard editing and creation be limited to certain users in an environment?
Yeah, so dashboards have the same old permission set as any other item type within Aras. So in the case of parts, you can set for view, edit, delete, access, things of that nature. You can apply that to dashboards. So if, say, this example engineering dashboard that I showed, if you only want users to be able to view and not modify it for everyone else, you can just set up the permissions that way.
Okay, great. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the box. One more question here. Do dashboards need to be built by admins, or can end users build their own to self-service reports and things like that?
Yeah, they're actually set up to operate pretty similar to self-service reporting. So individual end users can create their own custom dashboards to increase their productivity any way they can. So admins can create dashboards and provide them to their team. But if an end user wants something for themselves, maybe just to have all the current parts that they are, say, the assigned creator or have assignments to be working on, they can build those dashboards themselves, yeah.
Great. Oh, one more question here. Hold on. Any BI query integration with dashboards? It might be on a wish list.
Yeah, at the moment, I think that's something that might be on a wish list in the future. I will say that we haven't really had the opportunity to dive deep into integration with this dashboard functionality. But I think in the future, this might be something we can work with. Honestly, all of these dashboards are built on top of item search queries. So if we have integrated data within those item types, they can be displayed on dashboards, if that's what we're looking at.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I say thank you. Anyone else not have any questions? Otherwise, we're going to move to wrap up. Oh, sorry. I think that leaves you to Milan and Rodney.
All right. Yes, I'll handle this. So, as we always do, we'll finish off with a couple of our upcoming events. For those of you that are Aras subscribers, we have our upcoming user group conference in person, which is super exciting. That'll be September 12th and 13th in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have a block available for anyone who would like to stay at the hotel. We should be finalizing our agenda for the event pretty soon here, so we'll get that out to everyone interested.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great event. I encourage the users to come if you have the time. I know it's hard to get out of the office, but we're gonna have a great agenda. We're gonna have a couple of customers be speaking, and we're doing a nice roundtable, and we're gonna have some technical overview demonstrations. So there'll be a lot of good content to walk away with.
And on top of that,
there you go.
Oh, sorry. And on top of that, we have our next upcoming Tech Tuesday, which we're planning on having October 18th, and that'll be covering releases 22 and 23. So we'll be able to see a lot of those exciting dashboarding enhancements, as well as Innovator's first improvements to Simulation 14 since the whole 14 Plus started last year. So we're getting around to touching almost every single application and getting some significant improvements to each of those. So should be a pretty good Tech Tuesday. Feel free to save the date, and looking forward to seeing a lot of you here.
Great. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. We thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you got some good information on dashboards from Milan's nice demo. And we'll be sending out the recording as soon as possible. Thanks, and we'll be sending out the October 18th invites too for the next Tech Tuesday. So watch your inbox for that. And again, thanks for your time and have a great afternoon.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.